First off, I love my kids.
This is Learning to Dad
I'm the cool dad. That's my thing.
with Tyler Ross.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills.
I'm gonna have fun, and you're gonna have fun.
All right. Well, how the tables have turned. The interviewer is now the interviewee. So I'm Stephen Kott here with Tyler Ross. Looking forward to interviewing him on his own
Learning to Dad
podcast, Learning to Dad. We'll see what Tyler's learned so far. So first, Tyler, I guess everybody obviously who's listening to this knows a little bit about you, so we don't have to go through all of that. But I guess just to give a little bit of background for me too, what inspired the idea for this podcast, for Learning to Dad? What went off in your head to say, let's do this?
Oh, so that's a wonderful question. I wanted exactly the thought in my head was I want to do cool shit with cool people.
Okay.
And the thought was, how do I do that? And so the first thing I did was go through what I think is cool shit. And I think working and being an entrepreneur and, building businesses, the people that do that, I think are cool. I think that's awesome. And I love being a dad. I mean, I've wanted to be a dad since, the concept that I could understand was in my brain. So it was really what I thought the best avenue to do that. And I find that talking to people about being a parent is like a shortcut into their soul. So we could talk about the weather, we could talk about sports, we could talk about coffee, as Gary Vaynerchuk says. You could talk about Smurfs, man. There are people talking about Smurfs and making a living. And to me, business of any kind and being a parent are my two favorite things.
Yeah.
So that's why I started it.
Right. Yeah. So I guess just as a little bit of background, because most people have heard you ask a lot of questions to other people about being a dad, but a little bit of background. Tell us about, you and your wife, how you met. We'll start there.
Okay. Well, there's a race in Virginia that's called the Gold Cup. It's a horse race that happens in the fall and in the spring. And it's been something that I have pictures of me as, in diapers. And that was not like high school or college. That was like as a toddler,
right?
As an infant.
Age-appropriate diapers.
Yeah, age-appropriate diapers. And so I've been going to that for ages and got to talking to the mother of my sister's best friend who, just as the conversation started to wind down, she said, let me introduce you to my niece. And so she introduced me to Sarah and, who lived in Roanoke at the time and had a boyfriend at the time.
Was the boyfriend there?
He was not.
Okay.
No,
good.
Which, I just gave her one look up and down and was like, it's on.
Yeah.
This is a girl that I'm going to pursue. So I chased her around Gold Cup and we messaged a few times. She ended up breaking up with her boyfriend over time because I strategically drove a wedge between them, just a little bit at a time. And she ultimately ended up moving up here. She has family, just outside of Warrenton. And so the move was not a huge, leap of faith in terms of a brand new community that she wasn't unfamiliar with. But that was how we met. We moved in fairly quickly together after a year, 18 months of not dating. And then we started dating and more or less moved right in.
So we'll get to some of that. You kind of went from the very beginning to I want to talk about that first day at Gold Cup just a little bit. A lot of people ask, love at first sight and stuff like that, and you kind of said that you knew that it's on. Like I'm going to pursue this, but
yeah.
Looking back on it now, was it a love at first sight, or was it what was that feeling like?
Well, I think it was like a contrasting feelings. It was definitely lust at first sight because I think she's beautiful and she was rocking, she's 25, smoking hot,
Gold
just
Cup.
Graduated from college, wearing a ridiculous
sundress,
huge Gold Cup hat and she was happy. She was fun. some of the first words out of her mouth were, "You want to go do a shot with me?" It's like, you?
There's only
Yeah.
one answer to that question.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. But as it turns out, because I'd been going to Gold Cup basically my entire life, and she had been going to Gold Cup her entire life, and as it turned out, the spot that we were always at was 3 spots away from her spot. So over 25 years, we not once ever crossed paths.
Yeah.
And then my sister, Mackenzie, was best friends with her cousin Amanda for 15 years. And as much as I saw both of them, we never crossed paths.
Wow.
So, and Amanda and Mackenzie, like, wouldn't it be fun if, Tyler and Sarah got together? We'd be related. And so there it was. But to answer your question, it was definitely lust at first sight. And as I got to, it quickly became love. After our first date, I wrote her a letter that I tucked into my safe. I had, just a safe, may as well have been a drawer, but like, it was basically saying, I know this was our first date, but you're it.
Wow.
And I gave her that letter. On our wedding day, she said, we don't need to give each other a gift. Let's write each other a letter. So I sat on that letter for several years and gave it to her.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So that's pretty darn cool. And how long did you guys date before you got engaged, before you got married?
Gosh, I don't even know the answer to that. We met in 2009.
Okay.
We got married in 2012, and I think we were engaged for a year. So we dated for it took me about few months to get her to break up with her boyfriend, and then a few months to convince her to date me.
Okay.
And then, so I guess we were together a year, 18 months, and then got engaged and then got married.
Yeah. What was the proposal like?
It was
Actually,
at
I already,
Gold Cup.
I already
You were
know the
there
answer.
for
That I
it.
got a picture of it.
Yeah, you were definitely.
But I
there
still,
for
for the listeners, but tell me about the engagement.
Okay, so I shopped for rings for months, and I must have gone to 100 different stores, and it's probably a dozen stores, 12 stores, and ultimately bought a ring from our neighbor who owns a winery, and neighbor at the time, my parents' neighbor, and he was also a jeweler. And it turns out that winery was one of the first dates that we ever went on. And so that, in addition to just being the coolest ring I've seen, I bought that, carried around with me at Gold Cup like all day. I didn't, that's usually a drink fest. And I didn't drink. I wanted to be, stone sober, ready to rock and roll. And her dad, who's a cameraman, got his camera ready, and actually he had the camera rolling. Sarah thought it was a still photo, so she was striking a bunch of poses, and then realized it was a video, and that started having even more fun with it. And ultimately, around 15 or 20 of our best friends got to get down on one knee, as the horses are running by the fence, and propose there at the same place that's more or less within 15 or 20 feet of where we met.
Yeah. And had you gone through the whole, obviously with her dad doing the video, he knew, he was in on it. So did you did the traditional, asking
Talk to the parents thing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine not doing that.
Right.
I feel like getting married is such a big part. You're combining families. I see a lot of people that don't necessarily feel the same way, but it was important to me. And her parents lived in Roanoke, which is about a 3.5-hour drive. So I told Sarah one morning that I had to go to work super early. So I left the house at like 4, and I drove to Roanoke and kind of, rung the bell at her dad's office. And when he saw me, he was like, "Somebody dead? Like, what are you doing here?"
Right.
And I just pulled the ring out and showed it to him, and he gave me a big hug, and like, her parents are amazing. So so he quit work for a couple hours, and we went over and saw his wife, Sarah's mom, and got all excited about it. And it was all I could do to hope that they could, be cool for a few hours at Gold Cup, because it was just a couple days later.
Were they were just super excited?
Yeah, I was super grateful for them to be so excited, because I, maybe different with a boy, but somebody's come to me and talking about wanting to marry my daughter, like, it would really make my day to be excited about who that man would be, and to be welcomed the way I was welcomed.
And the reverse is there'd probably be hardly anything worse as a dad than seeing, your kid getting married or, in a very committed relationship,
Yeah.
with somebody you didn't think was right for them. So
Totally.
yeah, that's cool, man.
I think you totally have to own that. Like, if your kid is doing stupid shit, like we all did stupid shit, but I think as a parent, we really have to own it no matter what, you know.
Be honest with them.
Yeah. We have to own our responsibility was, you know, we messed that up.
Yeah. So did Sarah's dad have any good one-liners or anything for you prepared when you asked him, or any advice?
He didn't see it coming. I think he was as nervous as I was.
Really?
When we talked about it. Yeah, he was just like, you know, made it clear that his, you know, daughter was important to him and that I'd better take good care of her. And I did have a couple of his friends physically threaten me in the event that I did anything, you know, unwanted.
Right. And now as a dad, I don't have a daughter, but you do, obviously. You know, can you imagine being in that position? Have you thought about that?
I think about it constantly.
Really? Already?
Yeah, I mean, I think kids condition you for the future.
Okay.
Like, you know, it's not like one day she's going to get married. It's like as a first grader or a fourth grader or whatever, you know, as a kindergartner, she's going to come home and talk about how nice this boy was, and I'm going to want to kill that boy. But it's like he's a kindergartner. There's no harm. So, like, you talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And then by fourth or fifth grade, she's got a crush, or maybe she's got her first kiss at, like, a slumber party or something, playing spin the bottle. It's like, you really not quite ready for it, but, you know, that's what happens. And then by the time you get to high school, college, you know, marriage, like, I think they've conditioned you to be, you know, mostly ready for that, like letting go. Yeah,
you built up to it, kind of. Gosh, it's got to be terrifying as a dad to a daughter. Like I said, I don't know what that's like yet, but those type of things. Whew.
Well, I think the things that you can control, and the things that you can't. And so I feel like I'm confident enough in my intention that she's going to make good decisions. I think her mom's awesome. Her brother's great. She's going to be in an environment that is healthy and honest. And I think as a result of that, you know, she'll make good decisions.
Yeah, I'm sure she will, and I'm sure that you'll kick her ass if she doesn't. So. All right, so you've gotten the parents' approval, you've done the engagement, and then you guys get married. I was fortunate enough to be in the wedding. One of my favorite weekends, you know, in memory. Such a good time. I'm sure. Hopefully, you like mine. When I think back on my wedding, I say, God, if I could go and do that same weekend every year, I would do it in a heartbeat, man.
Absolutely.
I had such a blast at my wedding, and I had a really good time at your wedding. I actually brought my wife as my date to your wedding. So and we had a great time down there. Had a really fun weekend down in Roanoke. So at that point, what was the plan for kids?
We were both very interested in a family. Our families are so different. My parents have been divorced a couple times each. My dad's remarried, and my mom is currently single, and you know, I've got sisters from a mother we don't share. My dad and I share my dad with my sisters, and her family, and I've lived in 15 or 16 different houses, but all in the same town. Whereas her family has lived from soup to nuts. I mean, like, her parents have lived in the same house for 35 years. Both of their parents have lived in the same house for 65, 70 years. And they've got a lot of kids and a lot of cousins, and they're all super close. Whereas my family, with exception to my sisters and my parents, have all been, you know, here and kind of scattered. But I've lost track of, but because of a result of both of our growing up, we were both really interested in having kids soon.
Yeah. So you knew right off the bat that was the plan. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You weren't, you know, nowadays I think a lot of people get married and they want to spend a few years traveling, working on their professional life, you know, things like that. How old were you guys when you got married?
Let's see, that was 7 years ago. We're coming up on our 7th anniversary.
So you would have been, what,
27?
28, something like that. And she's, what, a couple years younger than you?
Yeah, she's 2 years younger than I am. So I felt like I had I was really rolling with work, like on a nice trajectory. And then when we got married, like I doubled down, like it's like time to roll. And then when we had kids, it was like, how do we manage this?
Yeah. So you guys got married, and then how long was it before you found out you were pregnant?
I think
she was pregnant, I should say.
Yeah. It was 2014, so about 18 months into our marriage.
Yeah. And your initial thought, did she set it up and, surprise you with it? How did you find out?
I think she just came out of the bathroom and, sat next to me on the bed and was like, guess what? And we just couldn't have been like happier, thrilled. Yeah. Like it just, we were trying.
Yeah. You were trying. So you were ready.
Yeah. And it happened right away. Like we said, you want to have a kid now? And like, yeah, like 10 minutes later, she was pregnant.
Wow.
Like really fortunate in that respect because I know a lot of people do a lot of work and have to, like you, I mean, you had a lot of effort that had to go into making it happen.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun. Trying's fun. Not going to lie. The trying part is fun, but the emotional element of trying unsuccessfully can start to wear on you over time. And, that's probably another episode of the podcast to talk about, some of those type of things that my wife and I went through with it. I'd love to share in depth some of those sometimes for people that are going through similar situations with with getting pregnant and that sort of thing. And since we had a good successful story with it, I'd love to share some of that stuff. But
do that.
Yeah, but today's topic is you, buddy. So, all right, cool. So how were you feeling at that point? Not as a couple, but how are you feeling as an individual? Obviously, life's about to change. You've got a baby on the way. Your career's going pretty well, you know. Well, but inevitably there's going to be fear or something there. What did you feel? When did?
It was really just kind of joy. I was so excited. There's definitely a new thing to consider in every decision that you make. It's like it's not just about me. It's not just about us. It's about us plus one. So there wasn't really any difficulty, but there was definitely like a period of time that you had to adjust on what your priorities are and what they should be, because you don't really know. All you know is that you're about to have a new experience, and you can only prepare as best as somebody that has no idea what to expect can prepare. So like it was uncertainty, but it was the kind of uncertainty. It's not like economic uncertainty where it's like I don't want to make a decision. It's more like the uncertainty of like excitement and just being excited to have the experience. Yeah.
Were there any moments of just fear? Just
second baby.
Second baby,
yeah. Great. Actually, there was a moment of fear with Grace and our daughter, our first kid. She was born at 35 weeks.
Yeah.
And, I can relate to you to the extent of, like, all the emotions going through your head of, the what ifs. I mean, 35 is different than 31, like you. But being in the hospital and having, like, 11 doctors and NICU nurses and all these things, like standing there waiting, like it's a first experience. So I was fortunate that I didn't really understand what was going on.
Right.
But we were really lucky in that our daughter was born at 5 pounds and, everybody dispersed and we went back to just kind of normal. We had some feeding issues and some warmth issues.
Did you have to do anything NICU or anything like that?
No. It worked out really great in that way. But our second kid, Riley, Sarah, like started having contractions like 28 weeks or like super
really.
And she ended up I could be off on that timeline, but she was on bed rest for a month, and I had just we were living in a little Rambler, like 1,300 square foot house, and I had a short sale house under contract for like 9 or 10 months. They was just dragging on, and I thought it was going to be a good investment, something that I could get under contract and then maybe sell the contract, because I didn't have any money, but I had people that would lend it to me or other people that would invest. And just as she went on to bed rest, the short sale got approved. And I couldn't find anybody to give me any money or to buy it from me, but it felt like too good of a deal to let it go.
Yeah.
So I ended up managing to find the money from a bank and So we were under 2 mortgages, one which was definitely an overextension. So it's like, had we just moved into that house and sold the other one, it would have been stressful financially, but we couldn't sell either one of them. So we're like camping in this. The only way we could buy it was like a principal mortgage residence. So we moved into it. We basically camped in the living room, and we had a mattress on the floor, and she's, 7 months pregnant on bed rest with a 10-month-old under, about to go into the red because 2 mortgage payments is chipping away at us.
Sure.
And my beard started falling out, and like I'd never been under that kind of pressure before.
Yeah.
Like wondering about the health of your wife, the health of the baby inside of your wife, whether you're going to survive economically. And we were just incredibly fortunate to have my sister Mallory stay. Basically, like, she was available. It was summer, like she wasn't in school, and she just saved our lives and kept Sarah sane and grew super close to our daughter. And fortunately, our daughter was a pretty easy kid. It's like she sensed how hard it was on Sarah.
Yeah.
But that was definitely the scariest part of my familial life, with exception to Sarah's allergic reaction.
Right. Yeah, that's surprising, because normally it's that first one. I would think that the first one is the scary one, and then the second one's like, I've been there, I've done that.
It was that way until it got scary.
Yeah.
It was fine until it wasn't anymore.
Right.
Like everything just happened at once.
Yeah.
And we had, somebody had just given us a puppy on top of that. So
nice. Thanks.
It was crazy.
Just what we needed.
Yeah.
No. All right. So to backtrack a little bit with the, going back to just having one kid, how do you feel? Like, when do you think it sank in? Having a kid changes everybody. Yeah. But when did you notice a change? Was it immediate? Was it when you found out you were expecting? Was it right after the baby was born? How did becoming a dad change you?
I think what's the opposite of traumatic? Like, what's the opposite of that? Like an enlightened moment, maybe.
Yeah.
Seeing my kid for the first time. When Grayson, watching that delivery, like, on paper sounds disgusting, and on paper it is disgusting. Yeah. But in real life, when you're watching your kid get born, is like the most amazing thing. Like, it's like I vividly remember seeing the top of my daughter's head. Yeah. And it was incredible. And like, it was really at that moment where it was like a weight's lifted off of me. Like purpose is coming into life. Like, it was really, like, I was so aligned with being a parent. Like, I really wanted to be a parent. Yeah, it's unlike anything else. But yeah, I think that you're right. It's hard to find the words to describe what that is when you first see your kid for the first time. Because you're right, the delivery part, it is scary and it is kind of gross. But when you hear that first cry come out, and it's just, oh my gosh, it changes you completely. Grayson, she was super like wiggly when she was born. Like she wasn't out of Sarah for 5 minutes before she like grabbed onto my finger, and it was like, that was the most amazing experience. Yeah, like my kid's hand is grasped around my finger, and that hand now is so big. Yeah, like even at 4 years old, like her feet, her hand, it's the same little delicate hand. Yep. Yeah, it's unbelievable when you think about that, and that hand is going to be her hand that she's going to experience life with. Yeah. I think about that with my kids a lot. Just all the, I think there's that in there, a book called like All the Places You'll Go, or something, something along those lines, and it really is, man. When you look at when I look at Cohen, and when I look at Ethan, and and you see their eyes, and it's like, man, all the things that you have in front of you to experience. There's a jealousy, there's an excitement, there's a and also a desire to want to be there to witness all of it. And I think that for me at least, that's one of the big things that it adjusted for me, was just my own the importance of making sure that I'm kind of taking care of myself and exercising and doing, cleaning up life a little bit, man, so that you can, do everything you can to be there to witness as much of that life as you can. Totally. I know my dad, like, totally shifted gears. He stopped smoking. He started eating better. I mean, now he like juices on a daily basis. He eats 2 handfuls of chia seeds a day. Like, he went from drinking whiskey and beer and, you know, smoking cigarettes and pipes and cigars and not necessarily eating great to, like, he's got grandbabies now that he wants to see grow up. It's like amazing what a kid will do.
It's a motivator, man.
I want to be able to pick up my daughter when she's 17 years old.
Yeah.
You know, like, I want to just be able to pick her up. That's my kid.
Yeah.
I want to take really good care of myself.
Yep.
Longevity is important now.
Yep. Yeah, the things, when I go to the gym now, it's no longer like when we were, you know, we were workout buddies back in high school, and how much weight can I lift? How much weight can I lift? And, you know, trying to get veins in my arms, you know, whatever.
Well, I want to interject a thought that you said something that inspired this thought about kids and what they don't know, and like their introduction to the world, wanting to be there for them. Like, something that really resonated with me was when somebody talked about how just purely unknown the world is to kids, to the extent that when you put them in the bathtub, they don't know that when the water's going down the drain, that the drain's not going to suck them down too. Like, that example to me just went, oh my gosh, we have such tremendous influence on these little things. Like, we're the ones that explain to them, you're safe here, or this is how this works. And we totally create a framework for their perspective.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting observation.
And a hell of a responsibility on our parts too to shape that.
So I think it's our obligation to be as good as we possibly can be.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. I mean, Tom Brady is as good as he can possibly be. Every decision he makes is geared towards his goal. Like, instead of corn chips, I'm going to have kale chips because this little minutia is going to make me that better. And I aspire to be at that kind of level as a parent. It's really hard because you have your own goals and ambitions and
and for somebody like Tom Brady, like, he's accomplished so much already, it'd be very easy for him to just say, screw it, I'm going to eat tacos and, you know, live on, you know, my island with my supermodel wife who's, you know, worth a ton of money. Yeah, I mean, it'd be so easy to just do that. But you're right, something that continues to inspire him and you know, for him, it's, I'm sure, love of his kids, but also love of the game, love of, you know, what he's known his whole life, and you know, a lot of things we do is for love of our kids. So, and I think that taking care of ourselves is one of those that we can do for our kids, and so that hopefully down the line, just like your dad, you'll be able to experience being a granddad. So
and like what the first question you asked me about, why did you do the podcast? Like, part of it is to help whittle down what my goals really are. Like, because the more you can clarify your goals, I think the better decisions you can make towards achieving them. Because if your goal is blurry, it's hard to make the right decision. So by listening to all these other dads talk, you get to start piecing together all these things that really make sense, and that puts you in a better position to make a better decision to reach your own goals.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back on the kind of the timeline here as far as the kids. So you have Grayson. You guys are now a family of 3.
Yep.
Just, you know, your own little slice of heaven. How long until
12 weeks. 12 weeks, and Sarah was
Were
pregnant.
you trying?
We weren't not trying.
Well,
yeah. So
clearly it doesn't happen by not trying. But
yeah, we weren't not trying. But yeah, she said, I'm pregnant again. And I said, no shit.
Yeah. A little different this time
That's
around.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still pumped, but it was like a joke. It was
pumped, but maybe a little more real.
It's like, doctor just said that, you know, it's okay to resume activities and you're pregnant. Like,
right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, oh my God.
Yeah. Here we go.
And anybody that ever complains about having one kid, I feel you. It's difficult, but reserve the energy, because 2 is a challenge far greater than 1, and 3 I can only imagine. I've interviewed somebody that had 7.
Jeez.
And I mean, it's a lifestyle. You can't like be a parent and go to a job. Like, your lifestyle is different.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Well, and I've heard, you know, kind of off of that, I've heard that, you know, the first kid changes mom's life, the second kid changes dad's life. Do you buy into that?
I would believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's moms are superheroes and they're amazing. And you do feel as a dad, or at least I feel as a dad, maybe you can relate that, like, to a certain point, you're really just kind of like the assistant, like you run and support, like you don't really add a lot of value to the kid, with exception to supporting your spouse, the kid's mom, your wife. But yeah, having two, now you're much more hands-on, like you're part of it now, truly.
Yeah, well, I've been lucky in that, I mean, I do change diapers and stuff, but the number of diapers I've changed compared to Vanessa is I mean, it's pathetic. And I can only imagine if we had a newborn at home right now, how many more diapers of Cohen's I would be changing on a daily basis or a nightly basis and that sort of thing.
If your roles were different too, like you and I both live lives where our roles tend to be, fairly traditional by definition, in the sense that, we have the role of financial support and these things, and mom is, the caregiver and the homemaker and taking care of the household stuff, which you grew up in that kind of environment. And because my parents divorced, our environment was peculiar a little bit, but that can totally be flipped too. I interviewed a guy who was a stay-at-home dad for a little while.
Sure.
And this is big general contractor, hard rocker type of dude. And he was like a stay-at-home dad for a while. It's like that's the role he played for that period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you do what your family needs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but generally that doesn't sound inaccurate. The first kid is mom, and second kid it's like dad's
Have you noticed that to be true in your particular case?
Yeah.
Second one changed things for you, more dramatic.
We hardly got adjusted to the first change.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Like, it's hard to contrast it too much.
Right. It just was all kind of a blur.
Yeah, if Grayson hadn't been born a month early, our kids would be 11 months apart. Yeah.
Well, how did you feel, just kind of shooting from the hip here, how did you feel from a financial standpoint with the kids? How did it adjust your approach to things? Because I know, like you were saying, you had deals out there where it was like, I don't have the money, but I think the deal's too good, so I'm going to find the money. And how did your approach to your financial well-being and lifestyle go? Change once you became a dad?
Well, because it's not just brokerage, but like investment and other things, your tolerance for risk changes. You have to make sure, your primary is considered. And now when your primary used to be just, let's wheel and deal and make something happen. So from that perspective, there has to be a little bit more meat on the bone. And then from a personal financial perspective, like you start, instead of spending this money on you, now you're spending it on your wife or your kid. Yeah. Because a diaper budget is a line item on your budget now.
Oh, I know it.
And you got to start preparing if you're going to send your kids to private school. That's a serious line item budget. I mean, everybody that sends their kids to private school and is a full tuition or even half tuition paying parent is giving up a car, $50,000 extra on their mortgage, vacation, savings, even people going into debt, they put that up for the benefit of their kids' education. Yeah.
It's one thing for you to, be single or even married with no kids and, scraping to get by. It's another thing when you've got, little mouths that depend on you and things like that. So it's always one of the, I think from a male, shouldn't even say from a male, but like you said, from the perspective of somebody whose primary responsibility is financial, security and providing that for their family, I think it's natural for finances to be a main concern because everybody will tell you how expensive kids are, and I've gotten to know that firsthand, Yeah. So definitely. I was curious how that.
Super fortunate to have a wife who, it's like we'd live in a shoebox and we'd be fine. Yeah. It's like I'm glad that we don't have to. Right. And she gives me enough support and leeway to go, chase the stuff I like chasing, in terms of taking risks and making investments and building a business. But, what's the worst that happens? Lose it all. Yeah. Like I still got the important stuff. So let's put it, if it's worth it, risk it, because worst case, I know how to make a living. If you know how to make a living, you can always build it back up. Yeah. I mean, that said, I'm not doing anything that's tight or putting
Sure.
us in risk, because I don't ever want our family to go backwards if we don't have to. But if there's something really exciting that would be amazing to be a part of, like, I know that, I have the permission to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome to have the support of a wife. And,
Yeah.
what was that Jim Carrey movie where I think the wife ended up leaving him, but she said she'd eat blubber for him. Do you remember that? I think it was like Me, Myself, and Irene, something like that. Yeah. She didn't end up moving to Alaska and eating blubber for him, but she said she would. So that's cool. Glad Sarah will eat blubber for you.
She'll eat blubber.
Nice. All right. So then second one comes around. Was Sarah working at the time? Like when
Yeah.
the first one?
Yeah, she's an elementary school teacher.
Even after Grayson was born?
No, she was staying at home.
Okay.
She was staying at home.
So she stayed at home.
She just went back this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how was that? Having your wife staying at home, you've got 2 kids at home, you're out working during the day. What was your role in being a dad at that stage?
It was definitely, providing financially, because public school teachers are dramatically underpaid. Like, a babysitter would have cost twice as much as her income was. So
Right.
it only made sense that mom be the primary influence on our kids. So there's definitely a little extra pressure to be conservative in decision making and to keep your powder dry, and to, and it was the hairiest it ever got was while she was pregnant. And fortunately we ended up selling one of the houses and doing well enough to actually have some savings, as opposed to like hoping that we didn't cross the 0 threshold. But we're fortunate that we didn't have to go into debt or credit card debt or anything like that to stay rolling.
Yeah. Now, how about your day to day with the kids and stuff? What's your role with? What was your role with them? What is your role with them? Today.
Today, it's, I think, trying to be an example and just be present with them. You definitely are. You're 25% of the household, and you got to do at least half the work. If not more. And that's something I'm learning to do, to be more. I was used to having a wife that had pretty cake hours relative to mine, and then she was taking care of a kid and staying at home, and a lot of stuff got done, and now she's working again. It's like I got to double down on my duties of, those things that are so easy to walk by, like pulling the trash out of the can, or doing the dishes, or, throwing some socks together, or whatever it might be.
Right on. So we've talked about, you and Sarah and all of that. Now let's talk about parenthood, as a practice.
Yeah.
So as a parent, how do you, because obviously you're doing this together with Sarah, with your wife. How do you work together as parents? And I guess specifically what I'm asking is each one of us has parenting styles or ways that we think that the other, that parenting should go.
Yeah.
Have you guys run into conflict? Of course you have, where you have a different opinion on the way things should be done with the kids or something like that. And how do you approach that? How do you resolve that?
It's been lately I've actually been really into addressing just this, and I find the majority of the problem is mine.
I don't doubt that.
It's all about self-awareness and self-improvement. And, as much as my ego tries to convince me that I'm amazing, like I'm a human and I'm imperfect, and there are things that I need to work on every single day. And one of them is humility and respecting the other person's opinion, because if it's my opinion, I'm right. Why wouldn't my opinion be right? Because I feel so wedded to it.
Yeah.
But, here's an example. I asked my wife, what would you want to do if we took 3 months off? If we won the lottery, if we saved up and we just took a whole year off, what would you want to do? And she immediately said, I'd want to move in next door to my family in Atlanta. Her cousin and their 3 kids, and the first thing that popped into my head was, well, that seems lame.
Right.
Like a whole year?
Yeah.
But that's her truth.
What are we going to do?
And somebody might think that my idea of what I would want to do is lame.
Yeah.
And so reconciling that has been part of, my greatest efforts over the last few months. I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of journaling and a lot of thinking about, like, how can I be more respectful of other people's opinions and their truths. And that's part of my truth is, being honest. And it's improved our communication. So if we have disagreements, like, it's easy to get snippy or for one of us to dig in. But, when one of us does, we're improving and getting better every day on coming back to the middle and saying, let's talk about this.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the goal is the same, obviously, which is to raise,
the intention is exactly
good kids that are balanced, that are, just good people in general. So, I think it's just about figuring out how to do that. Exactly. So, all right, cool. And then, so Sarah's back to work now.
Yep.
How's that? Maybe I should be asking her, but how has that affected things at home with the kids?
It's from a selfish standpoint, it's messing me up because, like, now I don't get as many hours in at work, and from a financial perspective, that if it was purely financial decision, it doesn't make any sense at all for her to be at work. However, I think she underappreciated, and I definitely underappreciated the work associated with being a stay-at-home mom. And so I think she needed that contrast to have that experience and be fulfilled and find the satisfaction in putting in the work days like she used to. So it's been a challenge, but the beauty that's been out of it is I've gotten to spend a lot of time with our kids, because I used to leave at 7:38 and come home at 6:30, but I packaged everything in between those hours. Now she leaves the house at 7:30, and I've got the kids until school starts, so I spend 90 minutes with them just solo every single morning, and that's like QT, and I get to be a little bit more of a part of their day, and that's been really great. Much as, like, part of that little voice in my head's like, how effective and efficient you would be if you got these extra 3 or 4 hours, because I'm watching the kids while Sarah's getting ready too. So I basically have them from 5:30 or 6 until 9, and that's 3 hours I usually had to go out there and kick ass doing the stuff that I like doing. But, like, it's given me an opportunity to be more present, because real estate agents and anything else that we do can usually wait till 11.
Right.
Or, nothing really. It seems like everyone waits till 5:15 to start calling you.
Yeah.
But I've gotten to spend a lot of time with the kids, which is awesome.
Cool. And you guys, do you have kind of a routine every morning? You got it down to a science at this point?
Yeah, I unfortunately stick them in front of the TV or iPad because I got to go shower and get dressed, for that period of time. But we usually play a little bit. I make them breakfast. Anybody that has had 2 kids can relate to this, but it can take an hour to get a kid's shoes on.
Yeah.
Like, put on your, like, by the time you put socks and shoes on one kid and go over to the other kid, the other one's taking their socks and shoes off.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all you can do to keep them going crazy. Like, we live 2 blocks from where they go to school. We could walk to school, but we could start getting dressed at, 45 minutes, and we're still, like, last people in the drop-off line.
Yeah. Have you found yourself as a parent? I know it's something that we do, and my wife's half Colombian, and we joke that Colombians are never on time to anything, and so I learned very early on in our relationship, even before kids, to get used to being on Colombian time, which meant if you showed up, if they said the party dinner's at 5 and you show up at 5, it's almost like, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you so early? But as we've had kids, I found that we've continued to be late to stuff, but do you adjust your schedule accordingly to give yourself plenty of time to prepare, or have you just accepted the fact that you're going to be 10 minutes late for everything?
I fight it. I always want to be on time, but what it has done is given me a new appreciation for people that are late with when I'm expecting them, because my perception, especially people that don't have kids, like, all right, you're late, so first of all, you're wasting my time, and second of all, you're a liar because you told me you were going to be here at this time, and third of all, you've got zero respect for this. So I've loosened up on that a lot, and I've kind of ripped a page out of Thomas Friedman's book. It's like, thanks for being late, now that someone else is late, because I am late now, as much as it pains me to be late, because I feel like I'm projecting all these things that I would otherwise receive onto them, that they feel that way about me, and I don't want someone to feel that way. as a result, I've stepped back and can appreciate when somebody's late and be totally fine with it. Somebody brings me a hamburger and I ordered chicken, like, fuck it, whatever, it's fine.
Right.
Just have enjoyed the moment.
Well, most of the time when it comes to kids being late, it's not because of something that we did wrong. It's not, it's the unexpected comes up. I mean, I had it happen about a week ago where I was walking out the door. I mean, I was putting my jacket on to walk out the door. I'd given myself plenty of time. I didn't have to go that far. And Cohen tripped, fell, bumped his, banged his mouth into something.
Yep.
Tears are flowing. I couldn't walk out the door at that moment.
Of course
I
not.
just could not, and like you had alluded to the primary, going off of Goggins a little bit there as far as protecting your primary and that sort of thing. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's nothing that could have physically pulled me out of the house at that moment when my kid was crying with tears rolling down his face.
Yeah, I would never give anyone any slack for skipping something with me to do something with their kid.
Yeah. So it's one of those type of things. But all right, so you got some routines in the morning, get the kids out the door, kind of building some memories with that sort of thing. So moving forward, I guess, what do you hope for? What is and this is just kind of an open-ended question here, but what is your goal? As a father, what are you trying to do? I guess what's your focus with your kids?
That's evolved because it used to be I want them to be this, I want them to be that, I want them to have this level of XYZ. But now it is to provide them opportunities so that they can explore themselves. So a lot of the things that motivate me, like, to pursue the things I like doing, is to be an example to them that, look, even though you do this for a living, you can still carve out time to pursue all of these other things, because I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So all I want are the opportunities to explore. Mm-hmm. And I know not all people are wired the same way and wanting to have a little piece of everything. Some people want to dive into a single thing, but I feel like what I want for them is to have the opportunities to explore the life that will fulfill them the most and bring them the most joy. Uh-huh. And I can't be the road sign for that. I can't direct them towards that. I have to allow them to find that on their own. So I just want to, as a dad, put them in a position to, go the direction that feels right to them.
Yeah. And how do you, I guess this question could be asked multiple ways, but you've got a little girl and a little boy. Mm-hmm. How does your parenting style differ between them because you're dealing with a daughter or because you're dealing with a son? Do you approach it differently? How do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I don't think I approach it differently yet. Based on a boy and girl perspective. Yeah. Like right now, I think at 3 and 4, there's not really a boy-girl difference. I mean, they could be interested in different things. As it happens, my boy's interested in trucks and cars and dinosaurs. My daughter's interested in princesses and makeup and stuff. But it may as well be, red team, black team, or whatever. It doesn't matter what those differences are. Like
your approach to talking to them, because I have a stepson and I have my real little son, Cohen, who's only 13 months old, but I don't have a daughter.
Yeah.
And the idea of having a daughter terrifies me because I don't know if I have it in me to, discipline, to yell, raise my voice at a daughter. I don't know if I have that in me, and so. As much as I think I would like to say that I would, approach each one of my kids equally or the same, based on that, I don't know if I have it in me.
You would. My daughter is really smart.
Yeah.
Like in a different way than my son. Like she doesn't know her alphabet yet, but my son, who's a year younger, knows it backwards, forwards, sideways. But my daughter knows people and understands how to work with people, and she is in my head.
Yeah.
Like And that's I'm going to chalk that up to a gender difference and not an age difference. Maybe that's misogynistic.
Now, when you say in your head, what do you mean?
I mean, like, she knows how I work. Like, like, I can see her experimenting with different angles.
So she's working you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that she is. And I can sometimes see when she's trying to, and it's freaking adorable. And I love it because it makes her more aware of the way the world works. But at the same time, it's hard to, like, you can't explain that to them. Like, I feel like I want to talk it out. Let's talk. But talking in concepts to a 4-year-old can be challenging. So I don't know that I treat them differently on a gender basis yet, but maybe as a result of their gender, they are different humans, and I treat them different in that way. But she's definitely infuriated me to the point where I have barked at her, and it kills me. I bark at my son. He's super sensitive. He cries, and it's funny. The first thing he wants is consoling, and he compartmentalizes it, and so he wants consoling from me. It's like, dude, I'm the asshole.
I'm the one that did that.
Now I feel terrible, but my daughter can give it right back. So you think it'd be difficult to, like, chew on your daughter a little bit, but, like, she's tough.
Yeah.
Like, she's strong, and she'll give it back to me, and we'll have that conversation. And I mean, I think she gets it. Like, I'm not worried about her I think she's really strong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worried about her at this point as a female.
Which one, of you or Sarah, who does she take after more? I'll ask that for both kids.
Yeah. It's funny. They both have a lot of each of us. Like, and Sarah and I are a lot alike. So, like, they might be, like, 2Xing on stubbornness and things like that. I am very sensitive. I perceive myself that way. I've been told by my mom I'm that way. I don't know if that other people feel that way, but my son is really sensitive and cerebral, and he's not interested in he's not interested in groups. Like, he'll go play on his own, and, like, I totally relate to that. Like, as well as I think I can work a room or something. Like, I'd rather be in the corner playing with my truck, and that's, like, occasionally, like, he loves older kids. Like, he wants to go hang out, and I like that. I can relate to that. And my wife, I just see as much as the kids look like me, I see her in them, and their build and their behavior. I don't know, man. Just going from one thing to another constantly. My daughter does that. She'll do this for 5 minutes, do that for 5
and
minutes.
And that's you, man.
You think so?
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, so that she gets. I was thinking that was Sarah.
No, no.
Sarah's that way.
No, that's you, man. That's you. I mean, not that you forget about the one thing that you left to go to the other one, but you're somebody that likes to have a lot of balls in the air and always have your hand in something new, and you're doing this, but you're also doing this. So I definitely see you in that. I can see Sarah in it as well, but yeah, it's funny that you would identify that as a quality that Sarah has, and I'm sitting there going, no, that's Tyler.
There's so much stuff to do in life, man.
Yeah.
I just want to squeeze as much stuff as possible out, the stuff that interests me. And if I ever exhaust that, I'll start doing things that don't interest me, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just another question that kind of popped into my head that we'll see where it goes. And this is just kind of random thought, but what is something, a situation where you've reacted in a way, like you've been having to dad, this was a dad moment. What's one situation where you are proud of the way that you handled the situation, that you were a dad, and maybe one that you're not so proud of? Something that you did where you said, shit, I should have reacted differently. And I'm sure there's been a lot of them, but is there any that stands out to you? We'll start with the good and end with the bad. So
it's a particularly proud moment. I think I can't think of any particular moment off the top of my head, but I think that I'm proud of myself for being kind of cool under pressure. Like, you're like a duck, it's like calm on the upside, but underneath, like, everything's freaking out. But, like, whenever the kids gets hurt, one of the kids hurts themselves, Grayson broke her arm. She was dropped on her head at one point. Like, she's just...
By you?
She was dropped on her head at one point. And, I feel like even though I'm freaking out on the inside, like, I prioritize and my fight or flight kicks in, and I understand that the most beneficial thing to do in this moment for the people that are important, like, I click in and I calm, and I think that brings an energy to the moment that keeps everybody okay.
All right. Now to keep it real,
Yeah.
an experience where maybe you didn't dad up as much as you could have, or maybe maybe they ticked you off and you shouted at them and said, "Oh shit, I shouldn't have said that." Or
I've definitely barked at the kids and immediately feel regret.
Yeah.
The time that I did was when Riley, I got really upset with him. I barked at him, and he started crying as a result of him being sensitive and my being out of character, and he immediately wanted a hug. And when he wanted the hug from me for consoling, I felt like such an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this kid is so pure, and he's already forgiven me for this.
Yeah.
And he feels terrible, and I don't know if it's because he felt like I let him down or because it was just weird, but like, I felt really bad, and that sticks with me. So that has encouraged me to practice patience with reactions and to basically try to eliminate reactions. I want to be as logical and deliberate and thoughtful as possible. I want to be enthusiastic when things are fun and great, but when things are bad, I want to be cool as a cucumber and talk it out.
Yeah.
And so every time that's when I feel like I'm a bad parent, when I'm reactive.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've had that happen to me before as well. And what I've found is a lot of times it's not the behavior that I'm frustrated with. It's maybe something else that's going on. I've had, I just got off the phone with another agent or a client or something. Some deal was, just being, particularly stressful and stuff. And then I took it out on the kid because he made a loud noise while I was trying to think or whatever, and then, and you kind of snap and stuff. And it's one of those that I think to me that's hard as a parent, the guilt that you feel, for allowing your frustrations about something that have nothing to do with your, kid, allows you to maybe snap or bark or something like that. And it's something I try to work on too. And just the whole not allowing your stresses to affect the way that you're gonna parent.
Yeah, so it's not even just parenting, but dealing or working with other people that are being disagreeable, whatever shape or form.
Yeah.
And another time that I feel like I'm not doing as well as a parent as I could is when I get distracted. Instead of being present with them, I'm dicking around on my phone or, not work-related stuff, even work-related stuff. It's like, there's got to be if Sarah says, hey, the kid was just trying to get your attention, but you're playing on your phone.
Yeah. We're all guilty of it, man.
Yeah,
it sucks.
We are. And there's not an excuse for it. Like, there's just not an excuse. We can't be guilty of that.
Yeah. No, it's, I know for me, the phone, like I do try to put it down. And I know that recently you had me take your phone for the weekend so that you could, essentially go, unplugged and get away from it. But it's so hard. It's amazing the addiction that we have to these damn things. And as much as we want to break free from it, it's almost like the world that we've created. And I know a lot of industries are like it, but particularly in real estate, I mean, my phone is my central hub for everything, for emails, for text messages, for phone calls, obviously, and then for entertainment as well,
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like instead of having the newspaper in your hand, you've got the phone in your hand. Yeah. Instead of having,
it's replaced so many things.
Yeah, instead of making a reservation, through the phone call, you're making it online. You're ordering your groceries online. It's like the phone is central hub for everything.
Yeah.
Which actually, it didn't occur to me until just this moment, but I just finished reading the 4-Hour Work Week, and the intent of reading it was to try to figure out how to free up more time to do work and to automate more things. But I don't know if Tim Ferriss intended for it to be this way, but you could totally apply that to parenting. I didn't even think about that until just this moment, but I might reread that book and stop thinking about real estate or anything else and
do it from a different perspective.
Try to look at it as how you can like hack into different things to be more productive so you can be more available as a parent.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to listen to a lot of what other, people I respect's opinion is on just kind of the whole untethering thing from the phone, because it's a real problem. Yeah. And not even just for the kids, but, particularly for me and my wife, even laying in bed at night, we're watching TV and, we're both sitting there on our phones scrolling through whatever, because it's recreation as well. It's entertainment. And yeah. So do either one of your kids have a phone?
No. They do have iPads that we've increasingly reduced the amount of exposure they get to it. In fact, we bought both of them blue light blocker glasses that if they want to play on their iPad, they have to wear their blue light blockers just for eye health reasons. But the incentive, the reason that we stopped as much is that tearing it away from them was so hard. Yeah. Like they were so out of sorts when we take it away. And it's like, you can't kick and scream because I'm taking this away from you. Like, it's time to go to bed. It's time to get in the car, whatever. Like, you can't be an asshole. Right. So, like, you're not getting it anymore. So if you want to use this, when we ask for it, you're giving it to us right now. And if you don't get it. Yeah. But we've tried to limit it to when only one of us is home and we have to go take a shower or something, or if we're at a restaurant and the wheels are just falling off, like they can't stand it anymore because
you're going to ruin everybody else's meal if you don't put the damn iPad in front of them.
Yeah, not just the people sitting at our table, but everybody else that's there. Yeah. It's like, we can't wait 40 minutes for the chicken fingers to come out, guys. Like, we ordered this when we walked through the door before you gave us menus because we need to keep these kids busy. Yeah. It's like,
it's so hard. It's so hard too, because unfortunately we have to accept that phones and technology and all of those things are going to be an even as big a part of our lives as it is. It's going to be even bigger for our kids. Yeah.
They might even laugh at us for carrying phones around. Like,
yeah, who knows?
You mean it wasn't integrated into your skull when you were
your ear?
18 years old? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and so it's one of those things that as much as you fight it, you also have to embrace it, and because it's here to stay. I'm afraid. I've often said that I have kind of a love-hate relationship with social media, and that in this industry, it's important to have a social media presence. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy it as well. It is. It's definitely something that I enjoy as far as keeping in touch with people, as far as learning things and getting insight into other people. But I've often said that if there was a button I could push to eliminate social media, I would, but there's not, so I use it. Yeah. And that's really how I feel about it. I think it's done a lot of good, but it also could definitely take away from your family, from your professional life, from your kids, all of that. So
sure.
All right. And so I guess the last thing we asked was something you've done as a dad that maybe you weren't so proud of. What have you, I guess, what are you trying to teach your kids? What kind of examples do you have or have you given that's, trying to guide your kids, trying to raise these kids? What's something that you do on maybe a daily basis that guiding you towards being,
Well, I try to be loving and affectionate and kind to them no matter what. I think if they're, they say, Wayne Dyer says, if you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. It's like, when I squeeze my kids, I want love and affection and kindness to come out. And I feel like the best way to get that into them, which I believe that babies are born as pure as it comes, and that it's the world that sours that. Oh. So if it's all these inputs and all the, the socialization that occurs, that, exposure that kind of beats that out of them. And I want to do my best to keep as much of that inside of them as possible. And by expressing that to them, I get it too. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Okay. We've kind of already touched on kind of what you see in your kids. Do you see yourself? What's something that you try to make sure, other than just love, like, but maybe as a male, and I know that these kind of questions can be a little questionable nowadays with gender roles and stuff, but as a male, as a husband, as a father, what's something that you want your kids to see you doing? What's a trait that a male, that a father or a husband should have, that you want your kids to see in you?
Well, I want them to be open. I don't want them to be rigid. And I've been working on being more self-aware and more honest with myself. And I think that that's really the key to a lot of fulfillment and success and joy, is to know who you are and know where you stand, and to accept yourself as imperfect, and that, even though you are that way, that being perfect is worth trying. And the only way you can do that is if you are authentically you. And I think we all tend to take the shape of our environment to some extent. So if we can kind of reform ourselves to get to our honest selves, and to be the best that we can be, the best us we can be an example. It all comes down to example. That's important to me, that they remain authentic to themselves and they're going to explore as they grow up and, figure out who their real influences are. But to the extent that I can get my hands on my kids and keep my hands on my kids, I want them to be just themselves.
Yeah.
Without fear of my judgment.
Okay. All right.
Anyone else's, for that matter.
All right. So let's start with some kind of faster questions here, some lightning round, give you a taste of your own medicine.
You'd think that I would have thought about this by now, but.
So we'll start with kind of one that was a tough one for me to answer. But who is your favorite TV dad?
I know this one, and it's Phil Dunphy.
Okay.
From Modern Family.
Okay. What is it about Phil Dunphy that you like?
Good question. Well, one, I can relate to him as a realtor, but he is just up for anything, and he tries different stuff. I mean, every time he says TM, it cracks me up, because it's like the head scratcher TM or whatever. It's like I can totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
And he just adores all of his kids.
Yeah.
And has fun, and I want to be more like that. I want to have more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So another question here, if the billboard question, which I know you're familiar with, but for people listening, if you had billboard space on a highway and you could put up a message to other dads out there, what would you write? What would you have it say?
I've heard a couple really great ones hosting this podcast, and I might steal some of theirs. One of them is, they're watching you. Your kids are always watching you. So be very aware of the way you treat other people, and the way you treat yourself, and the way you treat your family, because your kids are learning. They're watching you. That by itself might be kind of a creepy message, but to parents, they're watching you. And Ike Broadus said one that I thought was great, and I hate to ruin it for anyone that hasn't listened, but it was just, his was, go home.
Go home.
Go home. It's like, whatever you're doing here, go home.
Go home. Spend time with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. And then how would you describe the kind of father that you would like to be remembered as?
Gosh. A great example. Somebody that always said why not instead of no. I hope that I can inspire my kids. I hope they find inspiration from me. And I don't know what the right word is, but I want them to know that whatever egotistical part of me wants to be the best, I want to be supportive of them being a lot better than me.
All right. And then I guess I may have other questions that come up to me, but the last formal question here is, if this recording, this podcast is going to be out there forever for your kids to listen to, what is the message that you would like for your kids to remember, like for your kids to hear?
I want them to, however much they love, however kind they are, be more kind, love more, give more than they take, which I don't know if I do or not, but I'm working on that. Regardless, use your time well. Use it. Don't waste time. Always find the time is find a sense of urgency, And if I'm speaking directly to them, I'm going to borrow something I heard the other day. It was like, I hope I was a strong part of the chain on the way down, and that they can be proud of the decisions that I made that helped lay the groundwork for their existence. And I hope that they're all better, that every single one of them is better than me, and that I love them unconditionally. And I'm watching you.
And I'm watching you.
I'm watching you.
All right. And then just kind of as something that just popped into my head, a message for your wife.
Oh, wow.
About parenting, about being a father, and parenthood.
Yeah.
What would you say?
That I'm grateful for her patience with me as I evolve and try to be better. Her guidance and her leash. She's given me a lot of rope to do the stuff that I want to do. And I want to thank her for, her malleability and, not being rigid. We both have foundations that are totally different. And we've, I think, negotiated to the middle in a lot of things. And I'm proud of our growth together because we're not the same people we were when we met. I understand how hard it is for, how everything's all roses and sunshine for a long time, and then you get introduced to this new part of your life and you're not the same people, or if you are the same people, you're in a new environment, the context is different, and so it requires work, and I'm grateful that she puts in the work to tolerate me.
Yeah. Well, Sarah's definitely the real hero in the Ross the Ross family. I've known Tyler and put up with him for 20 years. She doesn't have that many years under her belt yet, but she has to deal with him, in ways I don't. So
my kids' demeanor are both of them they're both kind, and their both default setting is to be happy. I'm not a terribly enthusiastic person, as you can tell by the last hour of my monotone voice, but she is, and I love that about her. And my kids are dramatic and enthusiastic and happy and kind and fun because of her.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're fun too, but no, Sarah's definitely always super happy, complimentary, flattering, all of those things, and yeah, I hope your kids will get that.
She's so fast. The very first thing she sees is positive.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that. The very first thing I see is an opportunity for improvement.
Yeah.
So that implies that the very first thing I see is negative, but I don't frame it that way. I think she interprets it that way sometimes, but I'm always looking for the way it can be better, and she's appreciating it in the way that it is. And that's a big gap to try to close, and we have to talk a lot about it because we're different in that way, but I really appreciate that and learn from her in that way.
All right. Well, in the spirit of this being your podcast, is there anything that you'd want to say to the people that have listened to the episodes or some of the episodes so far? Anything you'd want to say?
Cool question, man. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
I can't express enough gratitude to the people who have taken their time to permit my, journey into their mind and their soul and their being, and talking about parents and talking about their business and their experiences. I've learned so much from them and am excited about learning more. You guys have enabled my goal to do cool shit with cool people, and I'm doing that now. I've done it for the episodes past, and I'll do it for the episodes forward. And as a result of my chasing my selfish goal, I hope that the benefit stretches to hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands. And if I could wave a magic wand, it would be millions of dads, parents, kids who would listen to the incredible stories of the people that are willing to be interviewed. I think it's our obligation as parents to be the best we can and to make our generation of kids better than the generation we are. And that's humanity's benefit. That's the benefit of the oceans, the land, the people, the animals. It's to everybody's benefit that children are raised as well as they can be. And I don't know how to do that, but I hope to be a conduit for the advice of people who have experience, to give little nuggets for people to interpret and apply in hopes of creating a really amazing group of people.
Yeah. Well, we
thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you to the people that listen to it. I know I enjoy listening, to the podcast, to the questions. I'm anxious and excited to see where it goes. I hope to be, just like getting to kind of play around today and ask you some questions. It's been fun. Hope to get involved in it more in the future and help out with some things with it. But I think it's cool what you're doing. I think it's getting good responses. I'm sure you've heard good response from people.
It's awesome. It's so cool
on this, and it's a fun thing. And with one of the questions you ask about this recording lasting forever, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't or wouldn't. So I think you're also creating kind of some cool timepieces out there that people will be able to go back and listen to many, many years from now and appreciate where they were maybe at this moment. And it'd be cool to do some follow-up ones with people down the road as well as parenthood evolves. So thank you for that. Appreciate you letting me kind of have some fun asking you questions. And
it's fun, man. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. We'll do more of this collaboration in the future. But yeah, for now, I guess this was Learning to Dad with Tyler Ross.
With Stephen Tyler.
With Stephen Tyler. So we sell houses. We don't make music.
That's right. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, buddy.